My name is Robert Barnes, better known as Bootsie. Yeah.
What is your
So,
date of birth?
I was born November the 27th in 1937
And where were you born?
in South Philadelphia, Pennsylvania Hospital. Man,
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in North Philadelphia. The first 2 years, 22nd and Norris area, North Central, which my grandmother lived about a block away. And then the second half was in the Richard Allen Projects at 10th and Poplar. It's from 9th to 12th and from Poplar to Fairmont Avenue. It's an 8-block radius. And roughly 1,700 units in the 8 square blocks. And you figure if every family had 3 or 4 kids apiece, it would come to a quota of like 4,000 kids running around out in the projects playing around.
You mentioned your grandmother. What
Yeah.
was her name?
My grandmother's name was, well, I had 2 grandmothers. My father's mother, my paternal grandmother's, her name was Grace Phillips. Grace Jones Phillips, you know. And my mother's mother is Mary G. Hamilton, and of the famous Hamilton family. Yeah.
So, could you state your mother and father's name?
Okay. My father's name is Wilbur Jones. My mother's Esther Barnes.
You mentioned the famous Hamilton family. Could you elaborate on what you meant by that?
My grandmother had 19 sisters and brothers, mostly sisters. And her youngest sister was a twin. Her first son was Jimmy Hamilton, that played 26 years with Duke Ellington. That's the way I can go about that. She had 2 boys and a girl. Then there was 19 other Hamiltons, you know.
Okay, so your family was musical. Could you talk about that?
I would say so. Well, my father played trumpet. And I was born in 37, so I saw Bill Doggett. He said in 1936, the year before I was born, my father was playing with him in Club Harlem, Atlantic City, in different places. He had a 17-piece band. That was in 1936, the year before I was born. And he went on to join the service in 1941 and did 30 years in the service, 41 to 71.
What branch?
I lived with him for a year in 1951 in Mount Clemens, Michigan, on the Selfridge Air Force Base. I tried it, but he was married again and had a new family, and I didn't quite fit, so I came back to Philadelphia, you know. So.
What kind of music did you hear growing up?
Mostly rhythm and blues and jazz. Because we always played the big band music around the house, but yet the music of the day was mostly blues. You know, Wynonie Harris and all the great blues singers. My mother used to sing to Jimmy Rushing's records, Jimmy Rushing and Big Bill Bronzy and guys like that. They'd have house parties. I hear the music, and it just stuck with me. So I straddled both sides of the fence. And then when my cousin would come to town with Duke Ellington, we'd go down to Earl Theater. This band would stay there for a whole week. And that was pure jazz, Duke Ellington. So I always loved both types of music. Yeah, so
You
no problem with that.
That your mother would sing. Was she a singer, or could she?
No, she fooled around with the guitar a little bit, but she wasn't really serious with it. My grandmother played piano. She started on piano, but Then she liked the guitar better. But my grandmother always saw that we had a piano in the house, you know. But my brother next to me is the one that excelled, but he didn't stay with it. But he played with a lot of singing groups and stuff like that, and played classical music.
Okay, back then, a lot of middle-class African Americans had pianos in their homes. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. They had the old rollers where you can pump the pedals, you know. But everybody wanted to take piano. They made me take piano lessons for, I don't know, about 6 months or so. But I didn't want to go back. They was forcing me to take lessons, and I wanted a bike. I wanted to be riding my bike. And the piano teacher told my mother that he's not interested. Because I would go and just sit at the piano. She'd tell me to play something, and I'd play 1 or 2 notes. And I didn't want to play it. But I wish I had took advice and learned piano. It would have helped me later on. So in turn, I learned chords on guitar. I don't call myself a guitarist, but that's how I learned my changes. By playing enough, you know, to be able to play the chord changes.
Okay, so that was part of your early musical training. Did you have any other musical training?
I was playing drums.
When did you start?
Oh, when I was about 6. That's what I had a set of drums home. They was trying to make me learn the piano. I played them all the way up to high school, to Ben Franklin High School. And me and Tootie Heath, Albert Heath, had a rhythm section, but he never came to school much because he was going on the road since he was like 14, you know. So I found myself in the section all by myself, you know. Spanky the Breast on the bass, and I was in. This guy Ernest Duncan played so much clarinet and alto saxophone. He was the talk of the town back then. That's what kind of got me interested in alto saxophone. But I didn't start it on until I got about 19 years old, you know.
So all of them went to Ben Franklin? Did they all go to Ben Franklin?
Yes. Jimmy Garrison graduated in 1951. He was bass player with John Coltrane. And by 59, he was with Coltrane, or 60, after Coltrane left Miles. To the end, you know. And there's other ones, Benny Golson. He was there before me, though. He started off in Franklin. He graduated in 44. Well, they had jazz before any jazz band in any school in the city, I think, you know, Ben Franklin. They had a 17-piece swing band. They was playing Dizzy Gillespie's arrangements and everything. I didn't know of no other. I tried to think back. I don't know no other high school had jazz bands. If they were, back in the 40s when Benny Golson was going there, I don't know who they were. But later on, the first school I would call of performing arts was Mass Bomb. That's where a lot of guys went. Lex Humphreys played drums. My best friend, and Lee Morgan, Ted Curson. A lot of them went over to, you know, Mass Bomb. I think Sam Reed went to Mass Bomb. And people from South Philly or West Philly in high schools that didn't have a great musical program, they wanted to go to Mass Bomb, you know.
So who were the instructors there?
It got me.
Okay.
I never went there.
At Ben Franklin?
At Ben Franklin was a guy named Mr. Fox, just that really got it going, and I think he retired. And a guy replaced him was named Mr. Cosmos. And that's when I got in the band, in 1952, around there. Mr. Cosmos, you know. But after Spanky and him had left, after Jimmy Garrison graduated, most of the musicians were like juniors and seniors. Most of them were seniors. And the band kind of dwindled down, and they were trying to rebuild. So we didn't have it about 10, 12 pieces when I was, you know. Some of the names escaped me, the trumpet players and all that, you know. But Lex Humphreys was going to Mass Bomb, but he would come over to Franklin and play with us when we'd have the SA dances, which is Student Association. And the girls from William Penn High School, 2 blocks away, would come over to the dances, And we would play jazz and they could do the bop,
So that was the favorite type of dance and the bop?
Yeah, yeah. Mm-hmm.
What were some of the tunes you all were playing?
Lester Leaps In, things like that. But they do the off time, you know what I mean? It's called off time.
So you played for
dances.
Slow. What other types of activities did you play for?
Oh, then it was just like school dances and stuff. We didn't, It's all that when we have SA dance at our school, we would play the dance. Over at their school, William Penn High School, they didn't have a band. It was all girls. We went all boys high school. But gave us a good chance to see all the girls when we had the dances, Yeah.
Was that an incentive for you to play?
I was always interested in the music. Even before that, we talk about high school. In junior high school, I went to start at Fleischer, 13th degree, and it's a block away from Ben Franklin. And they used to play records in the auditorium, like, I think every Tuesday morning or something like that, music appreciation, And I brought in a record by Howard McGee called Cool Bop City. And they booed me, boo, when they put it on. So at this particular time, the most popular saxophone player out there was Stan Getz. So I brought in a tune by him called Sweetie Pie. I really liked this tune, He was one of the first cats I really liked, because I heard him. I didn't know who Charlie Parker was till after Stan Getz, Then I soon found out. But they didn't like the Stan Getz record, So I just gave up on that. Then I wound up next year going up to Franklin. And everybody was into all the music then,
You mentioned Stan Getz and his music. Who else were you listening to? And who were some of your early musical influences other than Stan Getz?
Well, you talking about established musicians?
Whoever was influencing you.
Well, I wasn't that much interested in playing a saxophone or anything then. I was like interested in drums, but I liked all the music. I can't think who else. I was Ernest Duncan. After I got in Franklin, yeah, he played alto and clarinet like crazy. I liked it, but I wasn't ready to venture into that yet. I was still in the drum section, So when I did decide to make a change, they had so many drummers. They always used to say, drummers are a dime a dozen. So I got interested in the saxophone, but Ernest Duncan was one of my heroes. And after that, I started learning about the music, and and Lou Donaldson and Art Blakey and them just came out with the new album, Live at Birdland. And I really liked Lou Donaldson and Clifford Brown. And that's what started it.
So who were some of your favorite drummers when you were interested in the drums?
The first one I ever heard was Gene Krupa. Gene Krupa. They used to say I was going to grow up to be the new Gene Krupa. But he was a hero, because he had a name bigger than anybody's, But then I found out about all the other drummers. And then after, going to see Duke Ellington all the time, Sonny Greer, and he gave me a pair of drumsticks, and that was it. And he used to keep the band from being hungry when it was on the road, because he was a pool shark. My cousin would tell me. He would shoot pool and win money, feed everybody in the band when they were stranded on the road and stuff. But after Gene Krupa was Sonny Greer, and then Louis Bellson, because he took Sonny Greer's place in the drum section. And he was married to Pearl Bailey, who lived right down the street from my aunt. They tell me she used to roll me around in a stroller. I don't remember it though. But my aunt lived 1912. They lived 1947, North 23rd Street in North Philly. And Sister Eura, and the older sister was named Virgie. And I think it was 4 sisters, or 3 sisters and 1 brother. Bill Bailey, tap dancer. All lived on 23rd and Norris. Mm-hmm.
When you got older, did you meet any of them, or had they left Philadelphia?
They had Bill Bailey, yeah, Bill. But Pearl knew me when I was little, because I'm saying I lived right down the street. I mean, my aunt. And she was friends with my aunt. They were all young, you know. And they say she used to play with me in the baby coach and stuff. I don't remember that. Yeah, but I did meet Bill and hung out with him and met Virgie. I never met Eura, but I knew 2 or 3 of Virgie's kids, daughters. In fact, one named after her, Virgie, moved to California. When I went out there in '85, me and with Philly Joe Jones, we went by our house. And she cooked dinner for us and everything. As Pearl Bailey's niece, you know.
So you said you hung out with Bill. What was that like? Can you recall any experience that comes to your head with him?
Well, we just, it was certain bars we used to go in the neighborhood after his, show business career was over. I used to see him down at the Earl. And I remember him from the Earl, but I didn't know him personally then. But I met him personally in the neighborhood. We were up around 29th and Dryde Avenue then, staying in the bar. He'd get up and do a little step and everything, Well, you know how it goes, he's just drinking a lot and stuff like that. And money was funny, but cracking jokes in the bar, and he passed away, I guess maybe in the 80s or 70s or something like that. Yeah.
So when did you decide to become a professional musician and make it your life's work?
When? I don't know. I guess I was about, when I really got interested in the alto saxophone, I was doing some gigs on drums first, Some of my first gigs was at 15 or 16.
Where?
Oh, my first job was at a place called Sylvania Hall. It was over top of a garage on 27th Street between Oxford and Columbia. We used to do cabarets up there. I was playing with a guy named Reds. I can't think of his last name. He played electric guitar. Lived on 11th and Girard. And all I had was a bass and a snare drum and a ride cymbal. And my sock cymbal was broke half the time. But we used to play stuff by Duke Ellington, Cottontail, things like that. Then we used to work little corner bars and stuff like Max's Bar and Dryde Avenue around 12th and Dryde. Just little jobs like that. And like I say, with so many drummers out there, I gave my drum cases, I loaned them to Lex Humphreys to go on a tour with, and I never got them back. So I gave them to my nephew, and he wasn't interested. I think my cousin just put them out in the trash, But by that time, I was playing saxophone. And Earl Grubbs and Carl Grubbs, we'd go around their house every day. We were all getting it together, Sonny Fortune, Jimmy Vass, Lenny Houston, the famous Houston brothers out of West Philly. Lenny on alto. Clarence Houston played drums, and John Houston was the first one to leave Philly to go to California to make it big, Playing with Dexter Gordon and all of them. That's the Houston brothers from West Philly. But we were over to Grubb Brothers' house every day, 2500 block of Thompson Street. Just jamming. They started a group called The Visitors, you know. They were starting it then, but we could just go over there and jam with them, you know, every day. Learning tunes and stuff like that.
You mentioned the Grubb brothers. What were their names?
Carl Grubbs and Earl Grubbs. And their cousin Juanita, she married John Coltrane. And she later became, her name was Naima. Her name was Juanita, but she became Naima. So that was their cousin. So they had access to the train. Before us, they would go over to their house and listen to him and tape him while he was practicing and stuff like that. Then he would give them all the tunes, and they used to be on the piano, and I used to look at all them notes. I said, oh, damn, you know. It's interesting. The tunes were so scary, we wouldn't dare try to play them then. But Carl and Earl, they were learning them then, playing them.
How old were you at that time, Bootsie? Around what age?
Yeah, about 25, 20, yeah. We were all around the same age, you know, yeah.